What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back with a very exciting Pokemon card auctions of the week recap for you. This week we will continue the discussion of 151 and how amazing the cards have been doing from this set. And we'll also be talking about sealed product, booster box sales from not only Sun and Moon, but XY, and even a lot of Black and White era booster boxes had sold this week, so a lot to go over. Very exciting times. I'm so glad that you are joining me today for this recap. Folks, today's recap is sponsored by the one and only lowpopping.com. For those of you who don't already know, lowpopping.com is home to some truly unique Pokemon card grails. Just look at this beautiful array of Zards available. There is something for everyone on lowpopping.com. PSA, BGS, CGC slabs, sealed product, graded vintage video games for sale. The list goes on and on. And one of the many great things about lowpopping.com is that you can trade for a card that you must have for your collection. Don't have the cash on hand? You can easily trade for it. And you also have the ability to make offers on cards above $500. And they also have buy now, pay later options for you to utilize as well. So as you can see, they are very flexible with your payment preferences. So after this recap, go check out lowpopping.com. I will put a link to their website in the description of this video. And trust me folks, you won't be disappointed with the amazing selection of cards they have available for you. Alright folks, let's jump into this recap with some modern Pokemon cards. I wanted to mention a few cards from Twilight Masquerade that have done very well this week. Of course, we have the Greninja Special Illustration Rare that in PSA 10 has sold this week for about $580. And it's also worth noting this full art Special Illustration Rare Carmine had sold for $147, also a PSA 10. And then on to some 151 card sales that were very notable. Here is a Dragonair Illustration Rare, an absolutely beautiful card. Had sold twice this week, once for $73, another time for $122. And then we're going to go through the evolutionary lineups of the original starters. Here is a PSA 10 Bulbasaur that sold for $202. The Ivysaur sold for $160, and the Venusaur sold for $270 this week. Here is a PSA 10 Squirtle Illustration Rare, probably my favorite card amongst the starters in this set, sold for $223.50. The Wartortle sold for $165, and then the Big Bad Blastoise here sold for $242. Here we have a Charmander that sold for $209, while the Charizard EX, of course the most expensive card in this set, sells for about $575. Now let's take a look at the sealed product for this set because it's actually kind of affordable when you compare it to the prices of some of these cards. So recently the Elite Trainer boxes have been selling for around $86 to about $92, which isn't up a whole lot from like a couple months ago. A couple months ago, this box was selling for around $70, so not too much of an increase with the Elite Trainer box, with the exception of the Pokemon Center Elite Trainer box, which sold for about $215. And I know that Costco has recently have been putting out these 151 tins that everybody's kind of going nuts over. I think it's like $40 for the pack or something, so can't wait to see people trying to resell those bad boys on eBay. Here we have a couple very notable sales from Paldean Fates. Here is a Gardevoir EX Special Illustration Rare that sold for $136, a CGC10 Pristine Special Illustration Rare Charizard EX that sold for $810, and then the Mew EX SIR sold as a PSA 10 for $545. Those seem to be the top three cards as of right now in that set. A couple of other miscellaneous modern card sales that I found interesting. Here is a BGS 10 Pristine Mewtwo V-Star from Crown Zenith that sold for $202. In my opinion, this is the best card from Crown Zenith. Here is a BGS 10 Pristine Alola Friends from the Limited Master Battle set that sold for $2,275, and I covered this card last week as a PSA 10 where it sold for a very similar price. Up next we have a BGS 10 Black Label Japanese Celebi V from the Jet Black Spirit set that sold for $2,605 this week. And then here is the notorious Rayquaza VMAX Alt Art sale from Evolving Skies as a PSA 10 had a sold price of $1,025, and you've probably already seen this on other people's channels or on Instagram. This was a confirmed paid for sale, and the big debate is, or the big debacle, if you will, is why would you pay this much for a Rayquaza VMAX when they buy it now for like $650 to $700? So, I don't know. I'm not going to really get into the politics behind this topic, so I just thought I would include on the recap because it was a paid for sale. Getting into the vintage portion of the video, we have this PSA 10 Unlimited base set Chansey that I think is a new record price, selling for $3,051. And this is, of course, the lowest pop holo from base set. I think whether it's Unlimited, Shadowless, or First Edition, this Chansey is always the lowest pop. It is the most difficult card to grade from base. Here is a First Edition Gyarados in PSA 10 that sold for $7,569. We had a First Edition base set Blastoise as a CGC 9.5 sell for $3,363, while the First Edition Charizard, also as a CGC 9.5, sold for $18,800. A couple of cards from Fossil. Here is a First Edition Zapdos Holo in PSA 10 that sold for $670, while this beautiful First Edition Moltres sold for $1,111.11. And then the most expensive card, probably from Fossil, this First Edition Dragonite Holo sold for $3,306. And this card has been selling between $3,000 to $4,000 for quite some time now. Up next, a couple of Shining Gyarados cards. Probably my favorite card of all time, the Shining Gyarados. A CGC 10 Gem Mint example sold this week for $3,350, while a PSA 10 First Edition Shining Gary with a brand new cert on it sold for $10,501. A price I have not seen for this card in quite some time. That might be a new record price, I'm not sure, but it is officially a 5-figure card as a PSA 10. Speaking of cards that have skyrocketed, here is a PSA 9 Crystal Charizard from Skyridge that sold for $7,600, while the PSA 10 sold for over double at $16,500. Here is a PSA 10 Gold Star Mudkip from EX Team Rocket Returns that sold for $10,500. Up next, we have a slew of sealed product ranging from Diamond and Pearl all the way up through Sun and Moon. Here we have the Diamond and Pearl base set booster box that sold for $4,700. Here is a Diamond and Pearl Mysterious Treasures box that sold for $4,100. And then from the Black and White era, we have the Emerging Powers booster box that sold for $1,875. And this is the worst set in all of Pokemon. There's just no debate. This is the worst set, and it still sells for almost $2,000. That is crazy. Also from Black and White, we have a Dark Explorers booster box that sold for $4,350. We had numerous XY era booster box sales. Here is a XY base set box sold for $1,325. A Flash Fire box sold for $2,950. Here's a Furious Fist box that sold for $1,300. An XY Roaring Skies box sold for $798, while the Primal Clash booster box sold for $992. Here's an Ancient Origins box that sold for $1,425. And then we had an XY Breakthrough box that sold for $740. A Breakpoint booster box that sold for $637. A Fates Collide box that sold for $622. And then the XY Evolutions box that sold for $830. And then they also sold a case of Evolutions booster boxes for a total of $5,100, which I think is around like $855 a box within this case, so very impressive. From Sun and Moon, we saw the Celestial Storm booster box sell for $765. A Lost Thunder box sold for $555. A Unified Minds booster box sold for $780. And then a Cosmic Eclipse booster box sold for $915. Very close to the $1,000 mark there. And then the Sun and Moon Team Up box, which is by far the most expensive box from the Sun and Moon era, sold for $2,600 this week. And then just a couple of sales from the Fanatics Collect weekly auction block, here is a PSA 10 reverse hollow Machamp from Legendary Collection that sold for $1,230. And then here we have a CGC 10 Gem Mint WB Kids Pikachu card that sold. This is a Pop 3 card that sold for $5,160. Here is a Gold Star Metagross in PSA 10 that sold for $8,100. Here is a 30,000 point Japanese Flareon Gold Star that sold for $10,200. And then from the Corporate History Creatures deck, here is a BGS 9 Charizard that sold for $13,200, while a BGS 9.5 Chansey from the Corporate History deck sold for $16,800. That's all I got for you this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed the recap. I love covering all those different booster boxes. That's super interesting to me to see that variety. Let me know what you thought of these auctions in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. That's all I got today. I'll catch you in my next one.